your KL Smart City Digital Human Ambassador.
Hello, good afternoon. We're at Smart City Kuala Lumpur 2025. It's been exciting. We're on the second day. We had Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim here this morning. So it's got a big crowd out here and it's really been fun. And now I have with me this afternoon is Penny Wong, coming to us originally from Sydney, with an organization called Radmis, which is kind of a technology management consultancy.
Yep, technology enabler, yeah.
Technology enabler. Yes. And she's just been telling me a little bit about her experience in terms of deploying technology in cities, in places, and what works and what doesn't work. Thanks so much for being with us today.
My pleasure.
And I think we're kind of seeing this discussion around smart cities, and we've seen previous cities change and incorporate digital technologies, and now we're on the edge of more moving into AI and other technologies. Given your experience, can you tell us, what really works and what kind of things don't work when you're thinking about this next transformation?
Oh, that's a loaded question. Well, I've personally salvaged and rescued 50 failing digital projects across enterprise and government. And as a technologist, as a solution architect, as a CISO, building the systems is the easiest part. But it only represents 20 to 30% maximum of the entire program of work. So where it fails over is actually the humans. There's, naturally there's multi-party agendas, division in terms of power, not enough resources, requirements are sometimes ill-defined. So it's challenging. The bigger project
keep changing sometimes.
Oh my God, they do keep changing, but you can adapt to that, right? As long as you know that that's going to come through, you can adjust your framework and your thinking and methodology to accommodate for that. So a lot of the times that these projects, as they scale, they become so complex. And $20 billion can turn into $80 billion very, very fast.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think what you're saying is that you really kind of have to be a little bit agile and be ready for those changes. At the same time, to be kind of clear where you're going.
Yeah, and yes, and it comes down to people and trust. Ultimately, being clear where you're going is fantastic, but not a lot of projects know where they want to go. So it's a journey that you need to guide and take them through, and that's okay, right? The experimentation process is really important. If it doesn't work, don't keep going. Sure. You need to adjust the sails. Yeah.
Can you give us an example of a project that you worked on?
Yeah.
To kind of show these kind of trends.
Yeah. So there was in education, 5-year government policy, and it's an amazing policy. The policy was, how do we get teachers in rural and remote Australia to work in these rural and remote areas? Because Australia is so big and there's a lot of land that is not livable as well, but there are communities that still live there. And it's like leave no human behind. How do we get these teachers out there? So the government came up with a great policy. Governments are good at creating policy, but what they're not good at is tracking, managing, and actually following up did that policy work. And it's quite challenging to grab all the data. As great as the policy was, what we learned was, okay, there's a lot of data that you need to massage through. So we took the policy and the 400 rules that came out of it, and then embedded that into a system, a conversational assistant, where the technology would check in with the teachers to make sure that they are eligible for their rewards and incentives. So it reduced all the calls and inquiries, why wasn't I paid, and so forth, down from 1,000 down to about 10. And those 10 had nothing to do with the actual policy itself. So that's where I thought it worked really well. The challenge was taking the team through what these technologies mean, what to expect, how to work with it. So an 8-week project turned out to be 8 months, to be honest. But the 8 months was not to do with anything about the technology. It was actually teaching and guiding the teams through. Check, what does the data mean? How do we verify your data? How do we maintain the data for accuracy? It was guiding them through. So there's a lot of education required, and you can't fault people for not having that background education, but we need to educate people on what these technologies mean and how to build to make sure there's no bias, that the data is relevant, that the data is secure, and it's utilized in the right manner. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that it's not just about the project, but also the rollout and the issues of training, education, getting people familiar, taking it right through.
Yes.
And you can extend an 8-week project into an 8-month project.
Yeah. So like I said, technology is the easiest part in my personal opinion because I know exactly what needs to be done. The challenge is getting people aligned in their capabilities, getting them up to speed with what these technologies are and what to expect. So sometimes people have expectations up here. You might have to bring them back down to earth a little bit. Yeah.
So typically, governments, kind of want to achieve an objective.
Yes.
And they come up with a plan, a direction, master plans, etc. And then they kind of tender it out to the private sector.
Yes.
And then somehow or another it kind of falls through the crack. And you want this, you get, and
yes.
you get this.
Yeah.
What can governments do better?
Yes.
At which stage should they kind of rethink their approach to some of these kind of projects that they do?
Yeah, look, it makes sense where it's not core business to outsource, but how you engage vendors, the procurement process, to how you track and manage their progress is really important. Don't just completely outsource it, be involved in the process. Because ultimately, what does that handback look like? So if you build, you need to operate as well. So after you deliver, you need to operate it. What does it look like? Because once you outsource it, you're not building your capability internally, and that's really critical. How do you build the capability internally, working with the vendor, but then when it comes back into the fold, can you operate and maintain it? Yeah, and I think a lot of that it falls over, but it's also not accounted for when you're budgeting for a project. And that piece I think is really important. Yeah.
Sure. I think many governments kind of want to outsource it and don't really want to operate it. Kind of just leave it in the private.
And that's okay, but you need to understand what the vendors are doing as well. And the vendors have an obligation to educate their clients. Doesn't matter if it's government or not government. More so if it's government, because it is taxpayers' money, to make sure that government officials understand what is being built, understand what to expect. And you want, it's a partnership. It should not be a client-vendor relationship. It should be partnership. So partnership means you're in for the risk, you're in for the rewards. So if something doesn't go right, you talk to your clients. Look, this hasn't gone quite right, but let's work in fixing that. So it's good for both the vendor and the client to work in that arrangement. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing from you is just governments have to in some way be more proactive and be more engaged throughout the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And on the other hand, the vendors also have a responsibility
absolutely
to deeply engage the government to kind of understand whether or not the government has the capacity or educate parts of the government to have those capacities, kind of in a way be a good partner.
Yeah. And if you're from industry, you do have an obligation as well, because you can only help them to help you. So if you guide government through what is needed, help them upskill, you work well together as an industry, and that's how you build out an ecosystem. You have a partner that is deficient in something, you help them. Yeah.
So in terms of AI, what do you think are some of the key things that you see happening in the next 5 years in terms of cities and the deployment of AI? Have you seen anything interesting that you're really looking forward to?
Absolutely. How I would test it is if grandma could walk into a city and she feels safe and she can use the services, then it's a smart city. If grandma can't do that, there's something wrong and the city is not quite smart after all. We need to respect people and their time. We all have a finite amount of time in this world. I don't want to spend it filling out forms. So the city should aim to make sure that the citizens are looked after. How do we try and give back people time, make services efficient, make sure that it embodies the spirit of the culture of the community. Yeah. So I draw on my Southeast Asian roots, and my grandma.
You're from Indonesia, right?
Well, I was born in Sydney, Australia, but my family is Indonesian and they're across the region. But my grandmother used to say to me, gotong royong, right? Help each other, expect nothing in return. If your neighbor needs help, you help them, yeah? So that kind of stuck with me. And when I was looking at this conference, I thought, hang on, that completely makes sense. Why not take that spirit, turn it into gotong royong 2.0 and embed that into all your systems that you built? Like the AI systems, the city, the Sentient City. If we embody that spirit, the city should have that concept, right? Here are the citizens, within the city, how do we embody the spirit of Gotong Royong?
You were saying that you have these big conferences here, everybody's here. How do we utilize these conferences to kind of create a better direction so that the conferences just don't end at the end of these 3 days?
Conference for the sake of conferences. Wow, it's exhausting to, I guess, bring these conferences to life. And I know an insane amount of work, and I commend the people in bringing something like this together. It's a fantastic conference, but also at the same time, it's exhausting to attend conferences. It's 3 packed days, and there's a lot here. There's a lot going on. And we can only retain maybe 5% of what we hear anyway. What makes sense is, what do we do after this? Conferences are great, but it's not really useful if there's no follow-up. I would imagine that the attendees here between government, private sector, communities will come and think about, well, what do we do next? Start a dialogue, work on a problem together, create a pilot. I've suggested to other areas of government, if you don't know where to start, that's okay. Just pick 3 pilots that resonate well with the community or the ecosystem that you're working with. It could be transport, healthcare, education, it doesn't matter. And you measure the 3 pilots on progress and return. And if one resonates well, then scale that one up. But you need to start. You need to start to experiment. Take the risk as well.
So the conference can be a catalyst for something to work together on.
Absolutely.
Showcase following years.
No, absolutely. I would imagine that in 12 months' time, there'll be another conference like this. And the participants would say, I came to the first conference, this is what we've done. It didn't work, that's okay, but then they can retell their story.
That's fantastic. I think that's a really interesting insight. I think that and I think that your idea is that it's not really just about technology, but people, and kind of the partners engaging each other, government and vendors really working closely together.
That's critical. So
Thanks so much. Anyway, thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure.
I hope you enjoy the next few days at the conference.
Thank you.
Read and take it all in. And good luck in Sydney.
Thank you.
Sydney is a beautiful city.
It is a beautiful city. Thank you.
So, thank you so much for having us. This is Penny Wong from Radmis, coming to you from Sydney, from here in Smart City Kuala Lumpur 2025. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Wonderful.